Hello everyone, welcome to Pro Fight Picks. My name is Valentin, and in today's video we're gonna take a look at the Brunson vs Steel card, which takes place on September 4th. And in this video I'm gonna make a full card preview with my picks and predictions. So let us not wait any longer and jump into the fight. In the first fight of the preliminary card we got Jonathan Martinez fighting against Marcelo Rosa. So prior to signing with the UFC, Martinez had a 9-1 record in other promotions. Under the UFC banner though, he fought 7 times, winning 4 fights and losing 3. In the last fight, Jonathan lost by knockout to Davy Grant. Martinez has a good kickboxing and Muay Thai skills and prefers to fight on the feet. On the ground the American is less successful, but has an effective takedown defense and has never lost by submission. In terms of the knockouts, Jonathan lost only once in his career by KO. Moving on to his opponent, Rosa, he spent most of his fights in Combat Americas promotion, and at the end of his time there, when he moved to the UFC, he had a record of 16-6. Marcelo's debut at the top level took place at the Fight Night 187, where he actually lost by KO to Charles Jourdain. Roger is a versatile fighter with balanced set of punching and grappling skills. On the feet he is more effective, earning half of his victories by KO. On the ground though, Marcelo also acts well, but he is inferior to technical grapplers. The Argentinian has 5 defeats inside the distance. In this pair, I will give my preference to Martinez, who has a positive experience of performing at the highest level and is generally a better fighter in my opinion. With a high degree of probability, I feel like this fight will take place on the feet and will be mostly dominated by the American, who can win by a KO or TKO in the second half of the fight. So I pick Martinez to win in this fight. In the second fight of the preliminary card we got Dalcha Lungiambula fighting against Marc-Andre Barrio. In the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Lungiambula made his debut with a victory over Dylan Townsend, but then he lost inside the distance to Magomed Ankalaev. Dalcha won the last fight by decision against Marcus Paris. Judo is his base style, and he's more effective on the feet with skillful boxing, and he has pretty decent punching power, I would say. On the ground Dalcha is less successful, but he's quite capable of competing with grapplers and knows how to defend against takedowns. His opponent Marc-Andre in the UFC started with 3 defeats in a row, but then earned knockout victories over Oscar Infantry, which result of that fight actually was nullified, and then knockout victory against Abu Azaitar. So Barrio is a pronounced striker with a powerful one-shot punch and pretty good boxing technique. He prefers to fight on the feet and has inviolable stamina and a strong jaw. The Canadian has never lost by KO in his career. With a high degree of probability, I believe the fight between the two strikers will take place on the feet. Barrio has a slightly better chance of success as Lungiambula's chin is not nearly as strong. I predict a victory for the Canadian by KO towards the end of the fight, but if Lungiambula is attentive in defense, then the fight can reach the final bell. I pick Marc-Andre Barrio to win this fight. In the next fight we got Julian and Rosa fighting against Charles Jourdain. Rosa came to the UFC 3 times, having a total of 8 fights in the promotion. In the last round, Julian had 3 fights, defeating Sean Woodson and Nate Landwehr, and also losing by KO to Sun Woo Choi. Rosa is a versatile fighter with pretty good punching and grappling skills. He can be successful both on the feet and on the ground, but I feel like he has many gaps in his defensive technique. Julian earned most of his victories inside the distance, both by submissions and by KOs. But it's easy to say that the American is not able to compete with the top lightweights of the UFC promotion. His opponent Jourdain, prior to the signing with the UFC, had a record of 9 wins and 1 loss. And in UFC he had 5 fights, scoring 2 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw. In the last performance, Charles knocked out Marcelo Roja. Jordan wears a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and has a good grappling background. At the same time, there is a solid punch in his arsenal, which brought him the lion's share of victories. The Canadian himself lost to his opponents only by decisions, so he never been finished in his career. Lack of the experience at the highest level should not prevent Jordan from achieving victory in this confrontation, I feel like. Rosa is too unstable and can lose to the Canadian by KO if he is not extremely careful in his defensive action. And as we know, Julian and Rosa tends to, pay not much attention to his defense, and sometimes he gets clipped or he gets caught in the submissions. So I'm pretty confident that Charles Jordan will be able to pull the victory in this fight. In the next fight we got Jack Shore fighting against Ludwig Xiaoyan. Prior to joining the UFC, Shore had 11 bouts in the Cage Warriors promotion with 11 victories, 10 of which actually earned inside the distance. In the UFC, Jack fought 3 fights, winning all of them. The latest was actually won by decision over Hunter Azur. Shore wears a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and is most dangerous on the ground. At the same time, he has pretty good kickboxing skill, which makes him competitive even on the feet. Most of his victories were earned by submissions. So moving on to his opponent, Xiaoyan. The last time he entered Octagon was in November of 2019. Xiaoyan is a versatile fighter with good grappling and kickboxing skills. Ludwig does not have a powerful one-time blow and won most of his victories by decisions. So going into battle against an undefeated opponent on a short notice after nearly 2 years of inactivity, Xiaoyan can only count on a miracle, I feel like, in this fight. Shore must dominate both on the feet and on the ground. I predict his victory by submission or by decision with a pretty comfortable margin, so I'm pretty confident that Jack Shore will be able to pull the W in this fight. In the last fight of the preliminary card, we got Molly McCann fighting against Ji Kim. So both fighters are coming off a loss, and now they're looking to get back into the winning column. I believe in this fight Molly McCann will be able to get a win. Pretty sure she will be able to dominate her opponent both on the feet and on the ground, and I feel like she will be able to get a decision victory in this fight. In the first fight of the main card we got Paddy Pimlic fighting against Luigi Vendramini. So the 26 years old Briton has been fighting pro since 2012. Pimlic spent most of his career in the Cage Warriors promotion with a solid record of 16 wins in 19 bouts. Paddy suffered 2 defeats in fights with the current UFC fighters Cameron Else by submission in the first round and Ned Narimani by unanimous decision. Now the Briton is on a series of 2 inside the distance victories. Pimlic is a versatile fighter with good grappling skills and effective striking. He can be dangerous both on the ground and on the feet. Despite his relatively young age, he has a wealth of experience in difficult fights. Paddy has never lost by KO in his career. This fight is his promotional debut, and I think he will be trying to do everything he can in order to gain more fans and show that he's a real deal. His opponent, the 25 years old Brazilian fighter, started his professional career in 2016 and came to the UFC 2 years later with a record of 8-0. 8 of those victories were all by inside the distance. Vendramini had 3 fights in the UFC, having 1 victory over Jazin Ayari. Then Luigi lost his last fight by majority decision to Faraz Zian. Vendramini is a base grappler and wears a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He also has a good kickboxing skills and has a decent punching power. Luigi won all his fights inside the distance. In this pair, I'll give my preference to Paddy Pimlic. The Briton, with his versatile skills, is quite capable of competing for a spot in the sun in the UFC lightweight division. Paddy will not concede to Vendramini on the ground and will most likely dominate him on the feet. I predict Pimlic to win by TKO or by decision, and I'm looking forward to this fight. I believe this fight will be pretty entertaining, and I can't wait to see how Paddy will show himself in the UFC. In the next fight we got Modestas Bukauskas fighting against Khalil Jr. Bukauskas had a 10-2 record on signing to the UFC. He won his debut fight at the elite level by KO against Andreas Michalidis, but then suffered 2 defeats in a row from Jimmy Crute and Michael Alexchuk. Bukauskas is a pronounced striker who prefers to fight on the feet. He loves exchanges and has won almost all of his victories by KO. Like his future rival, Bukauskas is not very convincing in fights with technical opponents. His opponent, Khalil, under the banner of the top promotion, had 10 fights, scoring only 4 victories. In the last 2 fights, Khalil lost to Jan Kutilaba in the first round and Marcin Pranyo by unanimous decision. The base style of run-through is Muay Thai. He prefers to fight in a standing position, boxing skillfully, and has a pretty powerful one-time punch. Lack of fundamental punching and wrestling skills actually negatively impacts his performance against more trained and skilled UFC fighters. So in this fight, the chances of the fighters are approximately equal, and the outcome of the confrontation can be decided by one tight blow. Bukauskas regularly fights while Round-True has not fought all last year. A slight preference can be given to the Lithuanian, who is able to break an opponent in exchanges. If he himself does not run into a counter blow, I'm pretty sure he will be able to get a W in this fight, so I choose Modestas Bukauskas to win in this fight. Moving on to the next fight, we got Alex Morono fighting against David Zawada. In the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Morono had a total of 13 fights, with 8 victories. In the last fight, Alex knocked out Donald Cerrone. Morono is a versatile fighter who wears a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Taekwondo. He's pretty effective on the feet and on the ground, although he cannot be called a pronounced puncher. Alex lost twice in his career by KO, but he actually never lost by submission. His opponent, Zawada, at the time of signing with the UFC, had a 16-3 record. Under the UFC banner, he had only 4 fights, scoring 1 victory. In the last fight, David lost by split decision to Ramazan Emeev. Zawada is a versatile fighter who tends to work on the feet. In his arsenal, there is a powerful one-time blow, and most of his victories were won by KO. There are 3 inside the distance defeats in his liabilities. In this pair, the favorite is Alex Morono, who has a richer experience of performing at the highest level. In all the components of the battle, he is able to surpass David Zawada and has a good chance of achieving the victory inside the distance, so I pick Alex Morono to win in this fight. In the co-main event of the evening, we got Tom Aspinall fighting against Sergey Spivak. The 28 years old Briton began his pro career in 2014 and made his way to the Ultimate Fighting Championship in 2020 with a 7-2 record. At the elite promotion, Aspinall had only 3 fights, each of which he ended with a victory. He knocked out Jake Collier and Alan Bado and then defeated Andrei Arlovsky by choking him out. Aspinall is an all-rounder with a black belt in BJJ. He has a quality wrestling base and a powerful punch. He actually won most of his victories by KO, but it is also not recommended to contact the Briton on the ground. Tom has impressive dimensions and has never lost by knockout. His opponent Spivak, prior to joining the UFC, had a 9-0 record, and under the banner of the elite promotion he won 4 fights, actually suffering 2 defeats from Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura. In the last fight, Sergey won by unanimous decision against Alexei Oleinik, and I would say that that performance wasn't very convincing. Spivak is a technical and powerful all-rounder with good grappling and kickboxing skills. He has pretty decent punching power and skillfully works on the ground. The only inside the distance defeat in his career he suffered by KO. Opponents in this fight act in a similar style, but in terms of the striking power, Aspinall has an advantage. In addition, Spivak will be fighting on short notice, which may not be the best condition. The most likely outcome is a victory inside the distance for Tom Aspinall, who will hurt Spivak in the exchange and most likely will be able to finish him. So I choose Tom Aspinall to win in this fight. And finally, moving on to the main event of the evening, we got Derek Brunson fighting against Darren Till. So under the UFC banner, Derek Brunson fought 18 times, scoring 13 victories and 5 defeats. Currently he's on a 4-win streak, with the last one in March, which came by defeating Kevin Holland by unanimous decision. Brunson is an all-rounder with a good wrestling base and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. At the same time, on the feet, Derek, who has a solid punching power, acts even more effectively than on the floor. However, in his past, there are 5 knockout defeats, which speaks of not the best job. His opponent Darren Till under the UFC banner fought 10 fights, scoring 6 wins, 3 defeats and 1 draw. In 2018, Darren fought for the welterweight title but lost by submission to Tyron Woodley. Now the Briton has returned to middleweight and lost his last fight to Robert Whittaker by unanimous decision. Till's base style is Muay Thai. The Briton prefers to fight on the feet. He has a pretty decent punch and moves well on his feet. On the ground, Darren is less effective, but he knows how to defend against the takedowns. He earned most of his victories by KOs, but almost all of them were won before moving to the UFC. Formerly, Darren Till is considered the favorite of the fight. He looks good at the middleweight and is able to compete with the leaders of the division. The Briton will try to avoid tight exchanges and fiddling on the ground, hoping to overwork his opponent from a distance. Brunson, in turn, will try to repeat the scenario of his fight with Kevin Holland, where he exponentially declared the conditional favorite on the feet and on the floor. If the fight progresses slowly, Till certainly will take the victory by decision, and any explosive action will play into the hands of Brunson. This should be a close and competitive fight in which I pick Darren Till to win. Thank you for watching the video. Drop a like and subscribe. Leave your picks and thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the weekly UFC videos. Thank you. I'll see you guys soon.